Welcome back to DataDash, everyone. Today I'm joined by Mark Kreitzman from Efani, and we're diving into the critical topic that doesn't always get enough attention, which is protecting yourself from SIM swapping and what that really means in practice. And while crypto investors are generally a major target, these attacks go far beyond crypto, putting anyone's personal financial information at risk. Efani is tackling this problem head on, offering solutions that protect you not just from SIM swaps, but from impersonators who can easily gain access to the most sensitive data. In our conversation today, we'll also explore the broader landscape of digital security, from emerging Web3 vulnerabilities to the rapid rise of AI driven threats. This is a jam packed discussion, and personally, I found it incredibly insightful. So, with that, let's jump in. All right, everybody. Welcome, Mark Kreitzman. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing excellent and happy to be here.
Amazing, amazing. So, yeah, I just want to jump right on into it. I've got a few really, burning questions here, and I'm interested to hear, what you have to say. So, can you just share basically the story of how Efani was founded and maybe what the gap in the market is that you guys set to solve?
Yeah, it's a great story, and I love to tell it. Well, it's sort of a bad story that I love to tell. So I've been building cybersecurity companies since really around 2001, and one went to Microsoft, one went to Cisco Systems, and then I happened to get into crypto, and I was doing my own crypto startup. And in the middle of that, I got SIM swapped. So what that means is that my mobile service was stolen away from my phone over to a hacker's phone, and they got me when I was in the middle of the Arizona desert on my way to visit my parents. And I was out in an area where there's no phones, there's no Walmarts, no gas stations, literally between Phoenix and Tucson, very dry. And
Mm,
I had to drive. So I decided I would just go drive to my parents' house. The Wi-Fi kicked in when I got to the garage, and 6 password resets went right up my phone as soon as the Wi-Fi connected. And so I was so angry for a couple months. It was torture. I was barely sleeping. I got some crypto stolen. I got some Bitcoin stolen specifically. They got into iCloud. They got into a bank account and others, and I figured somebody had to solve this. And so I found the only person on LinkedIn that claimed that they had solved it. Turns out he was building one of the bigger or the biggest Bitcoin ATM network with a couple of his crypto buddies. And so we kind of hit it off. We talked a couple times, and I was like, hey, this is what I do. I help take companies to the market. I'd love to build this because I'm so angry. And I actually dumped the startup I was doing to join up with him as sort of a side project for him, and because was working on the Bitcoin ATM network,
mm,
and Efani was born. So he was doing it as a hobby under the name Don't Port. First thing we did is change the name to Efani, and this is back at the very end or beginning of 2019, the very
oh,
end
wow.
of 2018 into 2019, and we got used to the name. We decided to keep it, and uh, Efani was born at that point. We didn't know if we had a business, but every time there was a big hack, whether it was like the ledger database or a travel database or something, people were getting SIM swapped, and the growth started happening before we knew it, and we had to start hiring people. So we literally bootstrapped this without really spending very much money, and it grew out of the need of people wanting to avoid, they may have already become a victim, and then they're
Yeah.
like, okay, well, now I need to solve this. And I would say it's probably in the beginning, it was like 50-50.
That's incredible. And honestly, this is something that hits home for me a lot. I haven't necessarily went through, a SIM swap, in my life so far, knock on wood. But I've been investing in trading and doing things throughout crypto, and being, a social media figure to some degree. It's like my number one fear. So like
Yeah.
I take all these precautions without, utilizing a company such as Efani so far. So it's very interesting to me because I could see the value there just as a consumer myself, and the need there too, right? In 2019, 2017, 2018, those were definitely the real wild, wild west days. It's a little bit better now, but it's still just as scary, man, out there, because it's so simple still for somebody to just kind of break in, virtually. And that's actually incredible that you guys blew up, around that time frame too, especially during the COVID lull, which, this was sounds like one of
Yeah.
the few businesses that at least was guarded around that, because a virtual business at that, so you didn't necessarily go through some of the woes during that time period. So all the businesses that boomed in that time, it's interesting to see. So yeah, so you covered a little bit obviously about the SIM swap, which is even happened to yourself. So Efani's approach, right? So the SIM swap and mobile breaches are obviously growing threats in crypto and beyond. So how does Efani's approach differ from traditional carriers, I guess, and what makes the security model unique? If you don't mind talking on that point.
Yeah, so a lot of people will say like, "Oh, you got great tech. I love the tech that you've deployed and to keep this secure." And so I'll say, "Well, actually, what we're doing is we've done the opposite. We've actually stripped as much technology out of the mobile service as possible. Less data storage, less data collection. People think that we have racks of servers. The reality is that what we do is fairly simple. We resell AT&T and Verizon. So of course you can get AT&T directly as a customer, or that's one of your choices, or you can get AT&T through Efani. And there's a couple differences of the way we approach things. So one is that when you go and buy service from one of these carriers, you've basically opened up a credit account. So they have your payment information, your social security number, your birth date, all this personal information, your address, and all of that. It's stored in an account, and their 800 customer support reps can access it, as well as all the stores. And a lot of people don't realize that the majority of the stores are actually independently owned. So you're relying on independently owned stores vetting their employees and monitoring and securing, making sure they're not like, taking your information. You walk into the store, get verified.
Mm-hmm.
You're trusting that they're not recording that, whether it's with smart glasses or a recording device, recording like your PIN and things like that. And so there's a lot of trust that the carriers have with their customer support and their stores. And as you probably are aware of, Brian Armstrong had to come out and sort of turn around the $20 million ransom against the hackers who had been buying customer support information and then ripping people off. And I think they've been doing it for a couple of years, because I talked to a lot of victims before they come to Efani.
Mm.
And so the couple things that we do is, one is when you have like AT&T through Efani, is we're giving AT&T a minimal amount of information, and we're using one of our addresses. We're using, some of the information is just dummy information. We're a prepaid service, so we're not required by law to do full 100% KYC. And we're not collecting birth dates, we're not collecting social security. And so that information, can't even get breached anyways, because we don't have it. And
Right.
so we're locking the carriers and the stores and their customer support basically from that account. And so the other thing that we're doing is, the way that the mobile industry is built is that, let's say you want to come to Efani, the only thing that you really need to give us is the account number, your mobile number, and a transfer PIN. Once we have that, there's portals that all of us have, all the resellers, all the stores, customer support, all the independent stores and resellers all have portals. And so we can actually pull your mobile service over to Efani without having to talk to your carrier or you talking to your carrier. It just cancels. And
Really?
this is sort
Okay.
of like, yeah, so what they've done is they've designed an industry where it's like, if you want to ever leave a carrier, they've made it so easy and so cost effective. It's like, okay, if you want to leave us, you don't need to talk.
That was a really
And
big thing I was going to bring up, which
yeah,
is, for if as an existing customer of AT&T or Verizon or whatever carrier you're at, it's one of the hardest transitions for most people, right? Because most people have several lines on their account now. They have monthly payments that they, installments for their devices that they can't get out of, or when you go to cancel or when you go to shift into a new carrier, you have to pay all that off, and it's just not really feasible for most people. So is this something that if you have an existing account, that you can just port in or add this service to it? Like if I had Verizon, for example, I could just, like you just said, I could give you my account number and everything, and I could just basically add the security of Efani to my Verizon account, or is that not correct?
No, we have to have 100% control. So you'd have to actually port that number over to Efani. And yes,
Okay.
it's true. If you financed your phone, the only reason you would be locked into a carrier at this point is if you financed your phone. So you'd have to pay
Right.
off your phone.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so
So it
we
is.
deal with that, like we understand that. If there's somebody that's just like a couple months away, 4, 5, 6 months away from paying off their phone, we'll do our best to approve, financing whatever's left on their behalf if they want to move
Mhm.
over. We're also a company where we want to we don't want to just completely explode because we need to control really our own growth. And so it's just one of those limitations where it's like, maybe it's not so bad to have that in there.
Yeah.
But you do need to pay off your phone in order to switch. Now, if you were on Verizon, for example, and your phone's paid off and unlocked, then you can switch to Efani and use either Verizon or AT&T. In fact, we allow customers to move back and forth. Like if they move from Miami to New York or something, and AT&T worked better in New York, then they can switch. We've actually switched a couple times for disaster recovery
Okay.
situations as well. Like hurricanes came into Florida, took a cell tower
Yep.
down. We switched 2 people over from one carrier to another, and then when it was repaired, we moved them back.
Got it.
And so that's one of the unique things that we can do. Now, on the security side, not only are we not providing the carrier with much information, well, it's really just one line of information about you that we provide to them. But once you're ported over, we're unplugging you from that portal access. So
Got it.
somebody that doesn't know you, doesn't know Efani, doesn't, typically they're not going to know you're using Efani. They can't just get a couple of bits of information and port you out, or move you from one phone over to the other. We do full verification. We're doing verification that the carriers just won't do.
Got it.
Now, in addition to that, we're only supporting LTE and 5G, and that limits some of the exposure because the 2G, 3G frequencies are where you can really get hit by like an IMSI catcher or what's called SS7 attacks. And so we're eliminating the majority of those type of attacks, man in the middle. We have the SIM swap security. We back it up with a $5 million insurance policy. The other thing that we add in is that we're not just simply reselling AT&T. Is that like if you got AT&T with the Fani, you get voice, data, text in US, Canada, Mexico. And then if your phone has eSIM compatibility, we also give you 10 gigabytes of free international global data roaming. So if you were to go to London, go to El Salvador, Bangkok, Bali, you're going to land and you're going to get the highest speed available, and you're going to get 10 gigabytes, and it's free. And we also enable Wi-Fi calling globally. So again, you go to Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. If you're behind Wi-Fi and somebody calls your US mobile number, it's going to ring and you can talk to people. It's free. And you can also call back to the US for free. So we're providing the AT&T network. We're providing the security, SIM swap security, $5 million of insurance policy. And then we're giving you also global connectivity. So when you land in whatever international city you're going to have data when you land, and you're going to be able to use your WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal and those, and then also use the Wi-Fi calling to stay in touch. And that's all free. That's all part of it. And so we're adding in that extra value. Now, the one twist that's additional is if you have an iPhone 13 or above.
Mhm.
And well, before I'd say that, the other thing that we're doing, and this is optional and it's free, but we can set people up on a dual eSIM. And the dual eSIM means that your eSIM 1 would be your AT&T voice and SMS, and your eSIM 2 would be this global roaming data eSIM. And you can use it in the US, you can use it all over the world. And what that means is that your data usage is going to be roaming across almost nearly 500 carriers around the world. And so in theory, like if you were in Boston, your data might be using T-Mobile. You go to New York, it might be on AT&T. You go to Thailand, you're going to roam on AIS, DTAC, True. You go to Australia, same thing. And on the iPhone 13 and above, there's features that we enable for our customers that match what iOS has added for the 13 and above, and it allows us to do Wi-Fi calling over that second data eSIM. And so if you have an iPhone 13 or above and you do a couple trips internationally, what that means is that you can land in London, and not only are you going to have free data, but you're going to be able to do the Wi-Fi calling, you're going to get your SMS, but you'll also be able to send and receive calls over that second data eSIM without even requiring the Wi-Fi connection. And so if you've got the iPhone 13 or above and you're in crypto, or you're an investor, and you just make one or two trips, 3 trips overseas each year,
It's worth it there.
that iPhone 13 and above solution is an absolute no-brainer. People that we trialed this with some people, and it's now officially something that we do offer as an option. And the people using it have said this is a game changer, because they can then now they can actually work out of Cayman Islands. So we're starting to add crypto hedge funds, and they tend to have like one or two people in Cayman, a couple US, couple Canada, they might be in Thailand, Bali, Australia. So they'll have like 6 to 10 employees. They all want US mobile numbers. And so they all get the iPhone 13 and above, do the dual eSIM. They can talk to each other, they can text each other, they get the data, and then they can act as a US corporation. And it's just an incredible solution for any kind of nomad or any kind of business that has employees spread across a couple different countries.
Interesting. Yeah. That does sound really nice. And even when I was thinking back to some of the little, I guess, a hardship for maybe like a family to shift over. Um, Even for myself, I was just thinking I would even try this with just adding an additional line and having one phone that's like a little bit more, which I've always kind of done anyways in the world of crypto, is always kind of had like that additional phone that's kind of not my direct line and kind of separate from my personal life. So I used to do investments and things through that. Maybe just even starting off with just one line through Efani, just individually, and then eventually maybe porting everything over. But I didn't think about the business aspect of it as well, where people have employees and you generally have business phones for them. It's very, very interesting there, which also kind of leads me into my next question here, essentially, too, which you leaned into it a little bit already, but exactly. Not necessarily exactly, because I know the answer to this, but I think it's just good to hear it from you in a clear direction, because I guess I'd like the clarity of it too, like as far as what the company is directed for. But necessarily, who is Efani designed for? Is it this just for like high net worth individuals in crypto and traditional investors, or do you see this as something that everyone should be able to consider as well?
Yeah, well, certainly crypto is our number one profile customer. So we estimate around 80 to 85% of our customers are crypto investors. And we have
Okay.
UFC fighters, race car drivers, basketball players, football players, people in Hollywood. But the common pattern is they're typically invested in the stock market or they're in crypto.
Okay.
And so I would say that the profile is high profile people. So anyone who's sitting behind a camera, like yourself, you're
Hmm.
basically out there promoting that you're in the crypto space, and
Right.
you're putting your name out there, and you're probably on social media. AI tools can do searches on you, so um, people like you and others are big targets. So we have a
Right.
lot of the big names in crypto that are influencers. Um, High profile, high net worth, but we're also starting to grow in the security and privacy conscious people. So people that don't want the surveillance and data collection of what their carriers are doing, because the carriers are basically they're selling people's data for advertising purposes. It's not necessarily nefarious, because they're doing what everybody else does,
Right.
collecting data and then selling that to their marketing affiliates. And our philosophy is that we're anti-censorship, but pro-freedom, but also pro-privacy, very pro-privacy. We're against data collection. Our CEO has spoken in DC a couple times around trying to protect people. So we're starting to get the sort of the prepper community. We're getting people that have been attacked, that aren't necessarily crypto investors. I've talked to victims who they left a cult, and every time they get a phone, like their names with the carriers, and the cult can find them.
Interesting.
And I hear all kinds of stories. There's a lot of people that got divorced,
Uh-huh.
and and then
Just kind
their
of want
mobile
the
phone and things are,
exclusivity.
yeah. And so um, and so I'm sort of the sort of tech nerd here in terms of dealing with the customers anyway. And so most of the victims that come in will make their way to me. And one of the reasons we do that is because we want to understand what are the trends of how people are getting SIM swapped. And so, for example, there was like a year, it's like early 2024, where the like one of the trends was people would go into a store and impersonate you. So they would go in and say, "Yeah, I'm Paul, and I want to buy a phone and a line and add it to my account." And so they're using the sales incentive of that floor rep to maybe just be a little bit weaker on uh, the verification part of it. And even if they say no, there's no penalty. Like they're like, "Oh, you know what? You don't have your birth date, so we have to have that." So I could leave that store, go drive to another one 5 miles away, but in the meantime, I'm going to get your birth date, walk in, see what I can do. But if I'm able to get verified and buy a phone and a line off your account, because remember you basically had a line of credit there, you won't know that there's a phone and a line added to your account until you get your bill. So I'm going to leave. I'm going to then call the 800 number and say I want to switch numbers. I want my old number to be on the new phone, and I'm calling under a phone and a line under your account. And so they've gotten very soft in their approach. I could call your carrier and say like, "Oh, you know what? Oh, I just want to change the email on the account." And the verification, their
That's
level of
slick.
how they
Yeah.
verify you. And there's a couple of YouTube videos about how these social engineering people have done this live. Like one of them did it live at a DEF CON show in Vegas, where a reporter is like, "Oh, how you gonna hack me?" And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna do it through your mobile carrier." And they recorded it live, and she's like, "Oh, we just got married, and he told me I need to do this," and she had a baby crying in the background, and she actually in like the first 90 seconds got his password changed and then added an email to the account. And so now what she could do is wait a day if she wanted to, call back, and then when she verifies, she's actually verifying the real, and she's not it's not social engineering at that point. She's
Right.
actually giving them the email on the account, the pin on the account, and whatever information that she was able to gather, or and so she would be able to take control of that guy's account basically.
So, Mark, what's next for Efani in terms of scaling? Are you looking at new features, partnerships in Web3, finance, expanding beyond mobile security, anything of that nature?
Yeah, great question. So we are looking for partnerships, and we're partnering with already with people like Tangem,
Mm,
and we have a couple partnerships with a couple secure phone providers that do the Graphene OS phones, like Above Phone and Mark 37 with their Ghost phone.
mm,
And we're getting a lot of interest from the VIP cybersecurity companies where they are protecting the high net worth and like that. And we're looking to do partnerships with exchanges and things like that, where we
okay.
we would have some kind of financial benefit as part of that. And so, but in terms of features, we've recently added the dual eSIM feature, the international data roaming, where we're just throwing it in for free. We are coming out with our own app, and the app will be called Black Seal Protection, and there'll be some freemium type features, but there'll be actually an additional premium service where we're going to add even more layers of security and privacy. And so we're
Excellent.
excited about that. And we're pretty much planning on remaining the mobile service sort of security nerds and not really get into the device type,
Okay.
like selling devices and things like that. We'll help people finance it, but we just
Sounds
want to
good.
become the experts and have the most secure mobile service,
Very
continue to
smart.
add security, privacy, and global type features that extend the range for people, and that's really the main plans for us in the near future.
Okay. I had a question just on partnerships and pairing up. Have you looked at the which I guess you're not going to be looking into offering devices, but the Solana phone, as far as crypto would go, is that like a device that anybody's come over with? I'm just curious. I haven't really seen too many people with it, but I know that they had sold out or had like pretty decent sales when they started launching that a couple months back or a year ago.
That's a great question because I don't recall anyone claiming to have the Solana phone that's
Mm.
using Efani. At the time when they put that phone up for sale, like nobody was buying it.
Uh,
But then what they did was said that if you buy the phone, you're going to get tokens. And so I think those people that bought that phone ended up getting like pre-tokens for Solana. They probably actually did pretty well with it.
yeah.
Now, whether the phone's actually any good or not, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
We're primarily mainly iPhone, a lot of Samsungs, a
Okay.
lot of Pixel phones, and then the growing one is the Graphene OS based phones, which is
Mm.
basically a Googled version of Android on the
Got
Pixel
it.
series.
Okay. Yeah, I just when you mentioned the devices, it just popped in my head. I haven't really heard. I don't know if that was a flop or not either, but I just was curious if anybody came over and was just going
Yeah.
full crypto with Solana phone on Efani, completely off the grid there. So awesome. Well, sounds good there. And then essentially looking ahead 5 or 10 years, this company is what in its fifth or sixth year now. So in another 5 or 10 years, I guess, what do you see as the biggest risks to personal digital security, and how is Efani preparing to stay ahead of those challenges? Essentially,
Yeah, I would say that it's the data collection and the capabilities of AI. And we already know the threats there. So for example, like AT&T had the SMS and call records breached for like 108 million customers. And this happened
mm,
in the middle of 2024. So imagine AI having the ability to take those 108 million and then go out and find their names. And then they understand the people you call, the people that are in your contact list, and then could even dive deeper and understand that you have a friend named Amber that works at the hospital. You have a friend named George that is a crypto investor. They know each other, and now AI could actually have an SMS conversation with you. You're thinking that it's Amber and George, where George is texting you like, "Oh, have you talked to Amber in a while?" Like, just let your mind run on what AI could do with
I know it's crazy.
understanding everybody that you deal with. And there's already people that will call us up and say like, "Oh, you know what? Somebody's like spoofing my number, and they're texting people and saying like, I'm trapped in this city, and can you just send me like $500 or something?"
Right.
And so AI is going to accelerate that to the point where these scammers are going to be able to set it on 100,000 people, in a week, and not have to do the one at a time type deal.
Right.
So it's I think you'll be able to ask AI like, can you check out this person's profile and tell me where's the weakness of that? Where can I possibly hack them? Yeah, the voice recognition type thing, the voice cloning is
Yeah.
already
The deep
gotten a
fakes.
number of people, and we had one guy that said he lost 10 million on and one of the steps was the voice verification, and that somebody had utilized one of these cloning AI cloning things, and had bypassed it and was able to steal from him. So yeah, and the data collection is just off the charts. Like all of our information, if you're a U.S. citizen, everybody in your family, your parents, your grandparents, your kids, your grandkids, there's data on pretty much everybody that's floating around out there now. And it's really hard to escape. So we all have to take things, it's not just about getting a Fani, it's you get a VPN, maybe even pay like for a data deletion service. We're starting to partner with data deletion companies like Optery that will, continue to remove personal information about you that ends up on the internet or with these data brokers.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that there's no laws against the data collection,
That's
part of
crazy.
it.
Yeah. And it It's wild too because, just scams in general, like you said, like the AI is just going to amplify this to no end. And even today in 2025, the amount of people that even my family members, usually they're a little older, the amount of people that are still getting scammed off of just simple phone calls without even going that route,
Yeah,
right? And getting them to give, gift cards because they think that their phone is about to get hacked or their computers, having issues. Mind you, before you think that your son or your daughter or somebody's calling you from a kidnapped place and extorting money
yeah,
and things like that, it's gonna be wild. And then, like you said, they're going from calling one person at a time on a Rolodex or an auto dialer to just having mass thousands at a
yeah.
time. So that's incredible. Mark, this has been just an amazing conversation. I'm really glad we did this today. Essentially that's going to wrap it up for today's interview. So again, huge thanks to Mark Kreitzman here from Efani for taking the time to share these insights. If you'd like to learn more, we have the links down below in the description so you can dive deeper into what Efani is building. And as always, if you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe here on DataDash for more interviews, market updates, and educational content. Mark, thanks again for joining us. We'll definitely have to do this again soon, my friend.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. And good luck investing.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video, and hope you have a great day. Thanks again for joining me today.